Good morning from Use Your Habits. I'm Alec.
And I'm Meg.
And we are on a quest to get you a repeatable customer acquisition model.
Yep.
How many clients have you gotten from the workshop so far?
2 officially. So the one who I did a thing with yesterday signed on, so yay!
Yay! So 2 official clients. And any inquiries you're still following up with?
Ones that there was a couple of them that they're like, okay, I'm not quite sure about right now, maybe in the summer, and things like that. And then there's a couple more that I'm still waiting to hear back from. But, you know, they're doing the 5-day challenge right now, so I'm hoping like at the end of that, then, you know, that'll be a good time.
And that was the other thing I was going to follow up. It's still a win if they come back and engage and have more contact with you.
Yep, so they're doing the 5-day challenge right now, which is awesome. And we're on day 3, so that's good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just like, stuff is happening. Oh my goodness.
Stuff is happening. And one of the things I wanted to talk about is yesterday I did some ChatGPT experiments with market research. At the beginning of the week, we identified the thing that could accelerate your progress the fastest would now just be finding a big, long list of people you could give that presentation to.
Yeah.
So that you don't run out of people. And we kind of calculated, all right, if you got, 2 to 3 people every presentation, and you want to fill up your calendar with 20 clients, then you'd have to do that, give a presentation 3 times a month, which is doable, right? We calculated that we could do all of that stuff. So that was very exciting. And then once you get to that point, there are ways that we can free up your time, augment that with like group session, do a membership. We've tried membership before.
But I think that was definitely jumping the gun, or I was overly optimistic as to being able to garner a following so quickly on a platform that is new. That was the biggest bit of feedback I got, was that the platform itself was in English, and it was one that people had never used before. And so it's a misconception that, you know, Americans have a lot of Japan, is that it's like super hyper technology and everybody is, you know, like living in the future, which in some ways they are. Like their toilets are amazing, but and their bathtubs. But as far as actually like using computer programs and other things like that, it's still not even like where, you know, most Americans of our generation are, where we were raised with like typing classes, and I learned how to do some basic HTML in middle school, and, you know, just stuff like that. So things like keyboard shortcuts and other things a lot of people still don't know. So an entirely new program that doesn't have a version in their language was difficult.
Yeah, so that's a great learning, and just in terms of, sorry, I have something in my, but great learning in terms of like, all right, well, you can do paid groups on Facebook.
Yes,
right?
you can.
And that's translated into Japanese. Much better. Even if your target audience is advanced, intermediate to advanced English, and I think some of your audience were advanced, they were English teachers.
Yeah.
But still.
Oh yeah, but
still the usability factor.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a huge hurdle for a lot of people. Actually, what I found out recently is Line, the messaging app that most Japanese people use. You can have like a business page that people can follow you on there as well, and do posts and things like that. So I'm trying to figure out if I can do that even from the States. There are some features of Line that you can't use outside of Japan, which is weird. But I think it should be possible. And so if I could do that, then that would be another avenue for people who don't necessarily do Facebook. Pretty much all Japanese people use Line, which is kind of awesome. So
yeah, that'd be great. So yeah, there's learnings there, but yeah, finding you more places to talk, right, is going to be the best way to expand your business. And also, I mean, another thing to think about long term is not just building a following in general, but building your email list. Do you have like a weekly email that you can send out?
I haven't been doing that, and so I should. I should. That would be a good thing to add to my list.
Right? So like long term, it's hard to balance all of these things, but long term, that's a really good way to keep people engaged. that are interested in what you do but not ready to become clients yet.
Well, and that's another thing that the line thing is good for, because again, email, for some reason, not everybody checks their email.
In Japan?
Yeah. It's weird. I'm like, email is the one place that I always check. But line is actually even used more than email these days.
Interesting. So the partner you've been working with marketing, does she use line a lot? Okay. So
she does have email as well,
right.
of course. But yeah, we do all of our communication via line.
Interesting. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, set that up. An email list is still good, but...
Yeah, it's true. Well, and I figure I can do both, right? So,
right.
You know, say, hey, this is the same content, but if you would prefer it via email, like, I could give them a choice, I guess. You know? Oh.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about the email list is you own the contacts and the venue, which in other platforms you don't necessarily as much. And so I'm not as familiar with Line, but I'm pretty sure it's fairly...
It's kind of like WhatsApp, but just not. I mean, really, WhatsApp, WeChat, Line, they all do the same stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, good to know. But, generating that list of 100 places you can go to, so you always have somewhere to give your workshop.
Yeah.
And the idea that you could cycle back and offer it once a year to the same people or whatever. So if you have a list that'll last you 3 years, you probably should be good for workshops.
Yeah. Well, and I figure, I can do an update. Here, this is the 2024 updated version of, what the stuff that I'm doing this year.
Right. That'd be great. Yeah.
And I've already learned so freaking much, from my last iteration and this iteration, and then the client that I'd gotten from the last, or from the seminar-y thing, the first one that I'd signed on, we had our first actual session yesterday, and it was so good as far as she is exactly my target audience. And so figuring out the things that she needs and how I can help her, and then how I could turn that into other types of evergreen content. The 5 things that you absolutely must do when transitioning a Japanese presentation into English, or, something like that. Yeah. I could write that just after yesterday's thing.
Nice.
And it was stuff that I knew already, but now I have it very much more targeted, for that thing. So.
Yeah. And eventually we can make this automated, but exactly for that reason, it's good to do the challenge and other things in person.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Because you're getting all that feedback. And eventually, who we target with ads can be then informed by, actually knowing who likes your stuff rather than guessing. Although there's some fun guesswork, to bring it back to ChatGPT, some fun ideas that I got from that. So I used ChatGPT, which is, for those of you not following AI, which is a lot in the news right now, is it's a powerful artificial intelligence that does 2 things. It takes a natural language text prompt, so you can just type in whatever you want into it, and it understands that, and then it gives you back actually a very well organized text prompt.
It's so weird.
Yes. So it is very good at that. It can create mini essays. There is the caveat there that sometimes it makes stuff up. So I was having it try and give me examples of something from literature yesterday, and I'm pretty sure some of the quotes it said from literature were not actually.
So it's still basically at the high school level.
It's still at the high school level, yes. Says issues with plagiarism and making stuff up, but
that's yeah, that tracks.
Anyway, but it is it's a brilliant first research machine. But there are limitations, so I'm going to tell you what it was good for and what it wasn't, different versions of it. So as far as I understand, the public version is 3.5, which is sufficient for research. A limitation of 3.5 is that it was trained on data from the web data from 2021 and earlier.
Yeah.
So it doesn't know anything from the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Ostensibly, it's also connected to the Bing search engine. There's a version of Bing Chat, which is ChatGPT at least 3.5, if not 4, maybe probably 4 by now, and connected to the internet. And one of the things that I discovered is Bing is anti-useful, meaning that ChatGPT without the internet is actually better than ChatGPT plus internet with Bing.
It's so funny.
So I did a few searches on things like events and influencers, and ChatGPT, normal sans internet, just data from 2-year-old data, could give me dozens of events, dozens of influencers. ChatGPT with Bing could give me like 2 events and no influencers.
And then what did it do?
Oh, well, and the best part is when I asked ChatGPT, could you give me some more examples, it would say sure, and it would give me them. And if you keep asking and you have a very narrow focus, then the samples you get back, it starts casting a wider net, and so they become less useful, and that's fine. That's actually exactly what you'd want to see, that I'm like, this question, I'm getting all of the ones from this particular niche out, and then we're kind of, as I keep asking, we're getting less and less in my niche, so I'm done, right? That's like a great process. In contrast, Bing, when I asked for more examples, it disabled the text input and told me that it was time to do a new search. So, yeah, it was like, it's pretty much anti-useful. So, Bing Chat, major failure. ChatGPT 3 was actually very helpful. So, there were the general events. So, and as I started doing it, I started being able to ask better prompts. So, here's some good ideas that can help you in your research. So, the first thing I just said is, can you give me some events for Japanese speakers or Japanese business people looking to expand into English markets? And it gave me like lots of Japanese Business Association events. And then I started thinking like, okay, but some of those are in Japanese, which is not necessarily bad, but you want to target people who want to be communicating in English, right? So I started doing, specifying English language events in Japan or with a lot of Japanese speakers, and it could provide those, and it was there was some overlap, but there were some different sets. But I think it got really interesting when I started asking for influencers. So I started asking for who are influencers that Japanese business people might follow, and it gave me a list of just Japanese business people.
Yeah.
And one that came up a lot is the CEO of Rakuten.
Oh, yeah.
So
I've talked to him, actually.
Awesome. Well, actually, yeah, and he came up in multiple different versions of that search.
He's really nice.
Yeah. Nice. Anyway, so I started with that, and then I started thinking like, all right, what are U.S. influencers that Japanese people might listen to? And it kind of gave me a list of generic people, like Tony Robbins came up a lot.
Weird.
Yeah, and some people I'm like, okay, Elon Musk, sure, whatever, right? And that just didn't feel targeted enough. So I started asking what U.S. influencers hold events, large events in Japan. And Tony Robbins came up again, and I'm like, oh, that's why. Yeah. So I learned some. But then I asked ChatGPT the money question that I think is more helpful, which is what niche influencers focus specifically on helping Japanese business people expand into English markets. And there you got people I hadn't heard of, but their job is specifically, like they're lawyers helping businesses with the law of expanding into English markets, or they're marketers, right? That would be money. And like Japanese people who are talking about those influencers are probably your target audience. Yep. So, what we got from this, it's not like you would take this list and then just plop it down into your list of 100 places to give a workshop, although you could reach out to these people or events or whatnot. But this is a great first pass, and now what you have is a list of events you could go to, and then you could contact the coordinators of events and just say, hey, I have a free workshop that you could offer people coming to this event, or I could do it at your event as a or like do it as a virtual session before your event. Actually, that's the big thing.
Probably be better. Yeah,
like offer attendees that. You absolutely could do that. You could also see the groups who are attending, groups and individuals who are attending to that, attending the conference. Reach out to them individually, straight up with a event preparation package, or free workshop into that, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, so it's like there's a little bit more research, like who's coordinating the event that you could reach out to, who's attending it, but it'll give you a list of individuals that you can absolutely reach out to for presenting the free workshop or or even directly offering them some kind of client-based package preparing for events. So that's the event thing. And then with the influencers, it becomes interesting because one, you could offer to host a free virtual workshop in their groups if they have groups and spaces or whatnot. But the other thing is that research, like, find groups talking about these people.
Yeah.
Because that's where you're going to find the online groups. And that was one major weakness of ChatGPT in general. Bing was just useless. Like, Bing Chat was useless. But even, the old ChatGPT, since it's 2-year-old data and it's not connected to the internet, you can't search it for current groups.
Yep.
You can't say, find these groups on LinkedIn and Facebook and, find specific influencers on these channels. So, it's going off of, old group data or books or whatever.
Yep. And a lot happens in the technology world in 2 years, so...
Right. I mean, I imagine if someone is niche focused in that area, some of them might have retired or moved on, but they probably haven't completely pivoted.
Yeah.
They built their career around that, but there is a lot that can change. And so the way you for right now you can segue into finding those groups is, the usual search yourself for Japanese business, English market, or whatever in the various individual platforms, which is what I do, and I have a video on that somewhere. I can link that below when I find that. But manually doing it. But this can also give you a segue if you find the right influencers, the right niche influencers. It can be even more targeted because not only is it the general subject, but it's people who care about the subject enough to know the particulars, right? If you know the name of a lawyer who will help you expand into U.S. markets, then you're really serious about this.
Yeah.
Versus somebody who's I'd like to start a business someday and doing it in English sounds fun.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one way you can segue into this. Some ChatGPT news, though, is they're starting to create ChatGPT plugins, including a browser one that can let it have access to search the internet.
Hopefully it's more useful than what exists now with Bing.
Yeah, as long as it's not Bing-based.
Sorry, Microsoft.
Which owns the ChatGPT thing, so... anyway, but, if... and that might be a premium feature, I think. So, if you wanted to pay for ChatGPT, you might even have access for that now. And then be able to use it to actually find, tell it cool things find influencers on YouTube who, have at least 5 videos on this and a platform size of X, right?
Yeah. And
that, that will save you a ton of time screening through the market research individually, and then you can kind of reach out and connect with people. So, that was fun. I've been really into seeing what AI can do. There is a ton of AI stuff coming down the pipe, so I will Tuesdays probably focus more on that when you do your live stream. I'll have my business updates for solopreneurs about AI, because there's some really cool stuff.
Definitely.
All right. Anything else you have to add?
Nope.
All right. Until next time, make big changes one small habit at a time.
Bye.